Cool.
Okay. Hey guys, mrextrodin over here, back again with another video. I'm with Tebello. And
I
yeah, we just want to talk about Young Justice. All right, let's get to it. Young Justice season one. I just want us to focus on season one. We're gonna be doing seasons 2, 3, and 4. But for now, I just want us to do season one. Okay, I got introduced to Young Justice, I think in 2012 when it was being advertised on Cartoon Network. I loved it because they were introducing us to these characters. Robin was this tech guy who's hacking into motion sensors, and Superboy was not the brightest, but he's strong. I had no idea who Calder was ever. I had no idea, but I had an idea who Speedy was, Kid Flash. So it looked like a cool series, and I like the artwork because sometimes DC does great storylines, but sometimes the art is not that great. But with this one, the art was really, really good, so I really like that. What was your first encounter with the show? When did you?
I
Um,
saw I saw it from I saw it on Cartoon Network as well.
yeah,
The
yeah,
first season, that is.
yeah.
And what I immediately liked, for me, it felt like they continued on from
The Timverse.
Justice League.
Mm.
You
Yeah,
know, from
yeah,
it felt just like Justice League was just continuing from the
yeah,
last time we saw,
yeah.
when they managed to beat back Darkseid and everything, and then
Right,
they
right.
ran off after all those guys, and then it's like the end of the whole series, and then
Yeah.
like it felt like 20 years later.
Mm, mm.
Whatever
And
years
they
later,
probably
and
did
then
it like that deliberately, you know,
that
because I feel
so
like those two guys had big shoes to fill. By the two guys, I'm
mm,
referring to the creators or the screenwriters of the show. I think it's Greg Wiseman, if I'm not mistaken, and Greg Berlanti. I
yeah.
could be mistaken, but I think it's those guys. If I'm not mistaken, I just can't check it now. I wish I could, but yeah, I think it was those guys. And for me personally, it's one of my favorite animated series of all time, not just DC, but of all time. The reason I like it so much is the way it was written. I think they really did a good job. Sure, they gave some characters different ages, which is fine. I mean, if we're saying that Robin is the first psychic, so that means he's probably older than most of them. Well, he should be. But in this case,
Oh yeah, yeah. It was this wasn't Drake, was it? Who was it?
no, it's Dick Grayson. It's not
Dick,
Tim.
there you go.
Yeah. And also, speaking
Yeah.
of that, I'm glad that you brought that up because they took the genius of Tim Drake and applied it to Dick Grayson as well. That's why he's a
Mm,
hacker. That's something that Tim
mm.
Drake would do, right? So, so it's as if they took Tim's age and his hacking abilities, but made him Dick Grayson and his leadership capabilities. And
Mm. And they also added the comics humor into it because there was a scene where
yeah,
when that infiltrated, I think it was in the very first episode, you'll see the part where they've infiltrated this place where they found
Cadmus.
Connor Kent, yeah, Cadmus, and of course that the hack Robin hacked the cameras,
Yeah.
and it was like when the main guy figures out, oh, they hacked the cameras, and you just see him look at the screen like, I hacked the cameras.
Yeah. I hacked the motion sensors.
Oh yeah, they hacked the motion sensors. I
Oh
hacked the
man.
motion
It's
sensors.
it's
Like,
it's because I think the guy said it right. They hacked the motion sensor. It's like I
I
hacked
hacked the
the
motion
motion
sensors. And
It's my
what
favorite scenes ever, bro. But for me,
mm, what
oh sorry, were you saying something?
what I like about it is there's a what you know what's good about a series, especially if you've given a writer space that says there's going to be more than one season or
Yeah,
something like that.
yeah,
It gives a person the capacity to write episode by episode, but
right,
also have an overarching plot point.
right.
For an example, in season one, we really got introduced to the
The sidekicks.
Young Justice, the
Mm,
sidekicks,
mm,
and how that little angsty Red Arrow was
yeah,
busy being angsty, only to
yeah,
find out that he's a clone. But
yeah,
we don't know about that up until. But there's an overarching theme. There's a
yeah,
we learn there's this shadowy organization of villains called the
yeah,
Light,
yeah,
and then you see that this light is not only organized, they're literally that were literally so well organized, acting as a counter Justice League.
Yeah.
And they're so prepared because, of course, Randall Savage has been doing this for millennia
Yeah.
that they knew when they started sniffing about, they created an anti-Justice League with a Joker to distract the heroes to make them think,
Yeah.
oh, okay, we've taken out
The
these
big
big bad
bad.
guys, but they
Yeah.
really didn't.
Yeah.
And there's a plot going on.
But you see,
These emergencies aren't happening for funsies.
yeah.
It's all part of an underlying plot, and
Of
I
an
love those type of stories.
elaborate plan. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I love them. I love them
Mhm.
because I like to figure out what are they up to? What's going on?
I
And then sometimes I
actually,
figure it out before, then it's
mm,
like, yep, I called it. But then
I
sometimes it's
actually,
like, oh,
I watched a video essay recently. I think it was yesterday even, where the guy
Mhm.
was saying exactly what you say now, that the team, because they don't call themselves Young Justice, they call themselves the team or something. The team was
Mm.
formed because of Red Arrow's comments about how they felt like now that we're going to be that we're going to see the watchtower and be given access to being part of the league and whatever, and only to find out it's just a front, where the way it's just a museum. It's not actually the real
Yeah.
place where the justice,
Uh,
it's not the headquarters, right? And that sort of inspired or motivated Aqualad, Kid Flash, and Robin to actually take this team thing seriously.
yeah.
Only to find out that that guy was brainwashed to behave that way so that he can be a mole.
Yeah. Which, uh, funny enough, made Savage's ultimate was his biggest mistake. He did too good of a job with this character because
Yeah,
that
yeah,
way he kickstarted his biggest headache.
yeah,
Grant,
yeah,
Granted that I mean, there are many parts of the show they're trying to expose that each character has got its own plot and weaknesses and issues.
yeah.
Like Connor Kent was basically Connor Kent was basically Superman's firstborn,
Yes,
who who he rejected. So he is suffering a major identity crisis.
yeah. And
He was
it's
permanently
as if
angry.
he was using steroids, even though it wasn't steroids, but those patches that he got
Yeah,
from Lex
the,
Luthor, his other
which
father.
he got from. I was about to get to that. Sorry.
Oh, I'm
Lex,
so sorry. I
Lex,
spoiled
the,
it.
no, no, no. What I wanted to get to Connor Kent is living proof that Lex Luthor is not just obsessed with Superman; he's in love with him.
Right, right.
Because it's like I'm your baby. Here's your baby. I
Yeah,
think
because he's the one that did that.
yeah.
Clark
Without
didn't
his
do
consent,
that.
he got pregnant, gave birth to a baby. He's half you and half me.
But
What more can you say?
can we also
There's
say
a
that
there's a
how
TikTok.
uh-huh.
There's a very a funny TikTok by the username Panda Red, the
Mm.
Panda Red, where it goes about this whole scenario, and Bruce is basically teasing Clark, saying, "You owe Lex a whole lot of child support. You know that, right?"
But can we
Because
talk
that's what
about
happened.
how how much of a douche Superman was? Like, for me, ever since I was a kid, I've always been fascinated by how Superman rescues villains from death, or
Yes.
like 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 he's not a vengeful hero. He's someone who saves the villain because he's a hero. At the end of the day, he becomes a hero despite the villain's motivations.
Mm,
He saves the villain from themselves, you know.
mm.
And I didn't see that part in him whenever he was face to face with Connor Kent. He didn't show the hero in him because all that kid needed
I-
was, you know,
in season one, and
yeah,
I
in season
that's
one,
what
yeah,
I that that's
yeah,
what I kind of appreciated. He actually warms up to him at the end,
at the end,
and
yeah, yeah, yeah.
and
And
for me that
after much After Batman tried his best to talk to him about it, and because I mean, Batman at the time was already a father
Was
to
he?
Dick.
No, he wasn't.
To Dick,
Oh, to Dick, yeah.
yeah.
Not you only find the big secret reveal at the end of season, was it four?
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. No, I'm not talking about him being a biological father, but I mean
Yeah.
him being a dad, because I mean, he
Yeah, well,
was a
he
father to
took him
Dick,
in.
you know.
I mean, and funny enough, he was kind of a good dad. I mean, he saw that your son was irritated, frustrated at some point, and then took him to go play basketball. And I'm thinking,
Let's get to it. Let's get
what?
to it. Let's let's talk about these characters. Who should we
Uh,
start with? Let's start with
Batman being a good dad?
yeah. Batman is a good father and a
Like, I wasn't ready for that. I wasn't. I
supremely.
won't lie.
I feel like he's a supremely confident. He's a supremely competent leader. Like he was the leader of the Justice League, and he was supervising the team
He was the de
simultaneously.
facto. He was the de facto leader. His designation was literally 02,
Yeah,
zero
but
zero two.
because one thing I
What?
noticed about Young Justice, it shows you that the Justice League, the leadership of the Justice League is similar to CEOs in a company. I think you're given
Yeah.
like years to lead the team or something. Because in season two, Captain Atom was the leader, and then at the end, Black Canary took over. So
What I noticed about the Justice League is that it's even though they've got like de facto leaders in different times,
mm,
what I see there, you, it's still got a hierarchy about the people who founded the Justice League, and you can
yeah,
see by their designation numbers because
yeah,
Superman, whenever he uses
there's
the
one.
teleporter, is
Yeah,
001,
yeah.
Batman is 002,
Wonder
Wonder
Woman
Woman is
zero
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 three.
003.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, it's true, and I agree. Which is what even with have you noticed even with Young Justice, the team itself,
Mhm,
Robin is one, Aqualad is two. They don't say
mhm.
1, 2, but let's say if Robin is 13, Aqualad would be like 14. Stuff.
Yeah.
Or but I think it's B because I think the Justice League is
I,
probably A, right? Or whatever. But with
but
Young Justice it's like B 001 or something like that. Then it's
there was this one. Okay, AQUALAD in season one was the most boring character of them all.
okay.
You can fight me on this, but still, he
Mm.
was the least interesting of the group. He was basically a leader with self-confidence issues.
Mm. For me, he was my
I
favorite.
mean,
But I get what you mean. From like as a kid, when you're watching it, he wouldn't be your favorite
yeah,
character.
he was like the most. He was like Captain America without.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was basically
No,
Captain
no,
America.
just Captain
All,
America. Yeah.
all, all,
Or Cyclops.
all he was doing is like, I'm here to save you, my king,
Right.
but I'll also save the. And I was like,
Right.
okay, what?
Right. I
I mean, we've
completely
got
agree.
we've got Miss Martian, who's basically an albino, who's trying
Hello
to hide the fact
again.
that she's
Mm.
who's basically trying to hide the fact that she's just this. We've got Kid Flash, who's basically
A
who
kid.
basically has a who's a kid who's trying to go after the one girl who's not interested, who's not noticing there's this girl who's basically would give it all for him right there in front of him.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
then we've got
You've got Robin,
um
who is too overconfident, but
over
has to learn different dynamics of teamwork, because
and then I've
usually
got
how he operates with Batman is they already know what to do without speaking
mm,
about it. But now
and
he's
then
with a
my
completely different team. Now he has to give them directions because they can't read his mind,
yeah.
you know.
Mm.
So um then you have okay, we've spoken about Connor. Then you have Artemis. Is it Artemis?
Artemis, yes.
Who's living a lie? Who's pretending to be Oliver's Oliver's niece?
Oliver's niece, while in truth has been
His
while in truth
Horsemaster's
is like,
daughter.
yeah. It's like
And
you see all these people trying to live these double lives from these people,
yeah,
and they had to. And what I like is that they had to learn to slowly trust each other to be vulnerable, and that's how you learn. That's
yeah,
when a team becomes a team. You don't
Yeah,
become a team
yeah,
because you've got something to offer. Your
right,
team, you become the
right,
team becomes solid when you are open, when you're in a position where you can be vulnerable
right,
and they can still say it's fine. We because they've come to respect you as an individual.
right.
The second to last episode of the season when they decided to let the secrets out that
Yes.
I, I'm I
I've
was
been
given
taking
these patches
patches
from
from Lex
I've
Luthor.
been I've been taking drugs from Lex Luthor.
Yeah,
I've been
yeah.
I,
I've been
yeah
having
I've
secret meetings with is it Queen Bee or who was she? That lady.
I've been blackmailed by Queen Bee because
Yeah,
of the way I appear and stuff like
right,
that.
right.
I've been okay, that's the other one that made me laugh. The other backstory. Oh yeah, my dad's an asshole, super villain.
Oh yeah, Sports Master, right?
Yes,
And
sports
also,
master. Yeah, you get to see all that
yeah,
unveil, and
yeah,
then they
yeah,
finally become a team. And if it
yeah,
wasn't for that, they
yeah.
wouldn't have survived the season finale because that's when shit went crazy because they were
Yep,
the only thing
yeah,
standing between
right.
the light taking over Earth and
Yeah. And also, they introduced us to the Zatanna and Rocket as well. They
ah,
joined the team later on. Uh,
Zatanna is one of my favorite new characters.
Zatanna, I think, honestly speaking, since
When
high
she
school,
entered.
Zatanna has always been one of my favorite characters. But this character
Mm,
in Young Justice specifically, I love
mm,
her to bits because,
mm.
she's following her father's footsteps, but at the same time, she wants to be
She's just a
recognized. Uh,
she's just a child.
she's just a child.
Yeah.
And I feel like her father was just too hard on her, man, for the most part. And also, we get introduced
And
to Shazam. Um,
who's
I,
also a kid.
one of my favorite episodes was when the adults were separated from the kids, and
Mm.
Shazam was the only one who could who could
Yeah.
go into
It's
pardon?
I kid you not. It's one of my favorite episodes of the whole season.
Yeah, I have a few actually from that season.
Mm. It's
And
it's
that's
it's I
that's
think it's
definitely one of them.
it,
Yeah.
I think it's the favorite episode because I see that and I also see one of my favorite characters from on Young Justice.
Mm,
One my favorite character on Young Justice characters, one of them. I think
mm,
he's in the top two.
mm.
Would be Dr. Fate,
Yeah,
Nabu.
yeah,
Oh, that
yeah,
character screams order. He he
yeah,
he ain't
yeah,
he ain't there for
yeah,
and
yeah.
you can feel his anger
And
when
he
he
actually
puts on that
shows you
mask.
he actually shows you the difference in power. Like
Yes.
Superman has nothing on Dr. Fate, guys. I know
Yeah.
one of Superman's weaknesses is magic, right? Or sorcery
Yes.
or whatever. You can
Mm.
see that Dr. Fate, because when they were fighting that kid with the chaos, I don't know his name. The kid with the
Claire and the Witch Boy. Claire Claire and the Witch Boy is my favorite villain in the
I
whole
will
Young
bring the
Justice.
chaos.
I just loved him so much. I mean, that part, the reason I like that favorite episode when they made the pentagram and then they split the worlds
Yeah.
between the young and the old, right? There's a part where Zatanna was like, oh goodness me, I even know the fact that I know the reverse language.
Wow.
Anyway, yeah, Tatival, no, okay, now let me not go there. She basically wanted to levitate him off the pentagram.
Yeah.
And then you just see Claire's like baby magic. And then
Yeah.
he uses the same spell on her in backwards. But if you translate, he says basically, if she likes to levitate so much, let her. And then wait.
Yo. That's why
And
that's
then
why Dr. Fate had to intervene.
and that's when he puts on the mask and you just hear Clarion.
Right.
This ends now. You can just see that's like a parent that's had enough with his naughty child.
Yo, Nabu was on another level. And I also like how, going back to what you were saying about the team. Look, personally, for me, in the whole of Young Justice, my two favorite
Mhm.
characters of the entire show is Nightwing and Aqualad. That's me, but that's a story for another day. Um, where Calder sacrifices his body to Nabu so that he can save. Zatanna, I think, or Kid Flash, because a lot of people actually wore that
Yeah,
helmet. If you
it
remember,
was
Kid
there
Flash,
are three people. It was three people in total, if I remember. It was Kid Flash, uh,
Calder,
Calder,
Zatanna.
and then Zatanna. Then lastly,
Then the dead took it.
Zatara took it. He's like,
Zatara
hey,
took it. Yeah.
take me.
Yeah. So
And you can, and as the seasons go, you can see how that choice is pained Zatara. It forced her to
yeah,
grow up, yes, but
yeah.
it's
Yeah.
something. It's a guilt she carried for many years, which we'll talk about it in the later seasons. Well,
But
let's take
you
to
see, you just made me realize something. Being a hero and sacrifice. Everybody sacrificed, but there's a greater sacrifice than being a hero of a team, and that's the sacrifice of a father. Because
Mm,
in as much as everybody was being heroic in taking the mask,
mm.
Zatara was a father and said, you know what? No, release my
No,
daughter.
leave my baby alone.
Yeah, release my
Because
daughter. And I
I
will.
think I don't know if everybody sensed that because like the mask was trying to find a good host. The moment the Zatara was about to put it on, I felt like, oh no, it's not gonna let this one go. She's perfect.
Yeah, yeah,
She knows she's literally formed by the mystic arts. Come on,
yeah. She's a
she's
protege.
the
She's
perfect.
young. You know, she had it all, bro.
He's not gonna let her go.
No, not by a long shot. Not by a long shot. So, man, season one, I think is the okay. Many would argue that season two is better, but personally speaking, for me, season one is the best, man. It's the best season. I think out of 10,
Season
I'll definitely give it a 9 out of 10.
same.
Um, it's
I I think
it's
I'll
so
give it
deep.
an 8 because
Mm,
at that point, like I
mm,
said, Aqualad was so boring that he was really
mm,
he was that boring for me.
mm.
But the way the character out profiles, the way that they deliberately made Superman an asshole
Mm.
that you realize the reason Superman is an asshole is not necessarily because he hates Connor.
Yeah,
Is that every time he looks at Connor, it
he thinks
reminds me
of
of
what
everything.
Lex did. Yeah, right.
Yeah, it's basically a child of rape, grape.
Yeah. No, I get what you
So it's
mean.
like,
I get what you
yeah,
mean.
so you see everything that's been violated because of because of a mad scientist and his never-ending love hate boner for you.
Yeah.
So
Personally, I don't think there's ever been, personally, in my opinion, had Calder not been in that team was not gonna make it.
of course
Um,
not.
because Robin was not ready, he was too young. Kid Flash was way too immature to lead any team. Miss Martian was still finding her feet and was wanted to belong somewhere. Connor had an identity crisis.
Mhm.
Zatara, um, I guess, was trying to remove herself from the clutches of her father, and then
Be
Rocket,
her own person.
yeah, and Rocket was inspired by the sidekick, so she was inexperienced, and then Speedy was a mole, so eventually he was gonna, you know, betray them.
He,
So
he
you need
never he never
someone,
wanted to be a part of the group.
yeah. So he, how can I put this? You needed someone like Calder to lead the
Mm.
team. And it shows me how great of a leader Aquaman actually is. Because if
Mm.
all those tactics, all that leadership comes from Aquaman, then
He's a literal king.
yeah.
Uh, people think that people forget there's a difference between a sovereign king and like a president or something.
Right.
A king, basically, he's the head general and president
Yeah.
and lead administrator squeezed into one. The buck stops with him.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
where if you had a president who had little to zero military experience, he could still rely on his Department of Defense and stuff like that. No,
Yeah.
Aquaman, it's your army, it's your
But
nation,
it
it's
also
your
shows you,
kingdom.
for me, and it's something I've always questioned, why isn't Thor or Aquaman the leader of those teams? Because Thor has vast amount of experience. Like he's been protecting Midgard probably before even Captain America was born.
Yes. And here's a problem. Thor is not human.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
so
Okay. What's the problem? Okay. Fair enough. Fair enough. What's the problem with Aquaman being in charge?
same thing.
But he's half
He
human.
may be he may be half human, but he's king of the seas. It's just this. Aquaman is basically a good version of Nemo.
So Aquaman is like Black Panther
Yeah, he's
in the
loyal to
sense that
all
you
his.
can you okay, not to be harsh, but leading a small team like the Justice League or the Avengers is a waste of your time because you're leading a country or you're leading the seven seas.
Yeah, you're
So
literally leading it. You're basically you're literally leading an empire. You
right.
don't have time. You don't have time.
Right.
People, people think that being king means you've got all the time in the world to do whatever you want. Not really. Every
Right.
single problem is being sent to you. You need to appoint the people that will help you solve the problems on your behalf. And
Yeah,
if
and
you think
imagine
once
all those Justice League meetings that they have where they're deciding whether Shazam should be part of yo, man, I have so many things to
he's
do today
he,
on my
he's a
agenda already.
he's a child, yeah, sure. Because the only reason you'd be a part of the Justice League as Aquaman is that it's the best way to keep watch of all these nuclear weapons.
Yep,
You cannot ignore Superman. I don't
exactly.
care how powerful your kingdom is. Your
Or
kingdom is
Martian
you
Manhunter.
can or Martian Manhunter
Yeah.
or
Or Shazam.
and literally the show has shown me why you can't ignore Wonder Woman.
Yeah,
The Flash the Flashpoint paradox thing showed why you can't ignore Wonder Woman. So
yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
keep it. Yeah, let's work together rather than against each other. Let's form this team. Let's make the
Otherwise,
world a
we'll kill
better
each
place.
other.
I love what you do. Otherwise, it will be a never-ending war.
We'll
Because
all
if
kill each other.
you see the reason why Nemo is such a threat in Marvel
Mm.
is because they don't have so many god tier characters, or
Yeah,
rather, the god tier characters are more balanced out.
yeah,
Because if I mean, how many times have you watched even in things like the old that whole cinematic version? No, the Cartoon Network version of Fantastic Four,
yes,
where Namor literally declared war on the surface world, and
yeah,
it had to take all the Fantastic Four to make negotiations, and then he had to take Susan Storm because for some reason he had a crush on her, and all this crazy stuff.
yeah, yeah,
You wouldn't have time for that. Literally, if they if
yeah.
if 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 Aquaman declared war on the surface, the war would basically end up wiping out basically wiping out both Earth and the ocean.
Yeah, because
It's a war nobody wins.
right, right, definitely. And he was gonna kill millions. Eh?
Yeah, but then the Amazons would join the surface dwellers.
But you're not just fighting. It depends on how much control he actually has of the sea.
Mm.
Because you're not just fighting him, you're fighting the ocean.
They're fighting the ocean. But
So
then Batman would figure out the best way to fight the ocean is to take out the head. Then
yeah.
he'd somehow try and assassinate Aquaman. Figure out how to assassinate Aquaman. Most probably use. He would never ask Clark that because Clark would never agree. So he most probably send Diana.
To do what? To take him out of orbit.
Yeah, Diana's the one thing you need to appreciate about Wonder Woman is she's not afraid of killing you.
No, look, if it means because in the comics she killed Maxwell Lord on live
Yeah.
TV, bruh. I don't know if you remember that. On
Mm.
live television, she used her lasso. And I think she decapitated him or something. I forgot what she did. I remember reading those comics back then. That's when
So
I got
so
introduced to Maxwell Lord, actually. So,
so that Superman is the ultimate behave or else card because that's who he is.
by the way, I want us to also talk about Injustice. You saw the animated film, no?
Yeah, that
Yeah. Because what you're saying
I
now is basically what happened. The
yeah.
or else thing, where he became a dictator.
Because what I like, what we'll talk about that, but what my biggest argument, injustice is basically the writer saying, here's what you've all been complaining about Superman about. See what happens.
Yeah, it's basically Lex
And
Luthor saying, I was right all along, and you guys didn't
yeah,
listen. So,
and that's why I always have it, and it always grinds my gears just a little bit because there
mm,
are versions of Superman where he, even as a good person, has taken it to an extreme and to scare the world. And I'll explain it to you next time. I'm running out of time, buddy.
yeah.
So I'll explain it. I'll explain it next time. I'll
Yeah,
tell you all about the story. I've been
yeah,
listening to these stories. I've been watching it,
yeah.
and I'll explain how they could have just taken that story, that Superman, and they could have made the best story. But then again, sometimes things don't animate well.
The evil
Maybe
Superman trope, that's definitely something we need to discuss next time.
the evil Superman trope is the normal humanity trope.
Right.
I think
It's basically
I think
what we would do if we had powers.
yeah, and this other person, I think he's called Korean Beef. He's another TikTok I was watching, and his argument was that Superman is interesting when he's just no, when he's being Superman. The
Mm.
fact that he has absolute power and he is choosing to do good is the thing that's making him the most interesting character because the norm throughout all human history is that once they have absolute power, they all go crazy,
They're either
and everybody
Zod
who
or
yeah,
Doomsday or
Dark Side or even Lex
Thanos.
Luthor, yeah.
Yeah.
Because let's be honest, no matter how hard people say Lex Luthor is just a normal guy, Lex Luthor is so rich and his superpower basically is that he's a capitalist.
Yeah. Okay. We're out of time, guys. Thank you so much for
Yeah.
checking us out. We'll definitely see you on another video. And don't forget to like and subscribe and also check out Tebello's channel. I'll leave a link in the description below. And yeah, guys, we'll see you on the next one. Thank you so much. All right.
Peace.
Peace.
Bye.